Welcome to the Industry Born podcast. I'm Cullen Reichart, your host, and today we'll be covering almost anything related to cannabis. Awesome. Well, welcome back to the Industry Born podcast. Today I have Matt Kurth. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Matt Kurth.
Awesome, Matt. Welcome. So, I did go and check out your website, and we'll post that for everybody. But you're doing something a little bit different and unique. Give me an idea of what that is and what's going on for you.
Yeah, well, thanks so much, Colin, for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here with everybody. So I'm Matt Kurth, and I founded Humboldt Cannabis Tours in 2015. And what we do is, well, the easy way to describe it, it's like wine tours, but weed. So we
Cool.
get customers, visitors from all over the country, all over the state, and then we put them in a van, and then we go out to a working legal cannabis farm, and we get out and we talk to the farmers and touch the plants.
Wow.
Sometimes we visit more than one farm in one day. We really focus on education and really building connections between
Sure.
people, the plant, and the people that produce it. And that's what we're really all about. So there's some other people doing cannabis tours out there, and that's awesome. And a lot of people focus on consumption. It's kind of more of a party bus kind of situation, which is great. I love consumption. That's great. But the thing I'm most proud of is we go to the farms, we get our hands in the soil, and we really talk to farmers, and it's really educational. It's a lot of fun, and we
You're
consume too. It's just not the focus.
well, I mean, it always ends up being some of the focus at some point anyway, right? So that's how it goes, right? But you're in Humboldt, yeah? So
Yeah, so
you're in
I'm
the
up in
Mecca,
Humboldt.
like that's the cradle, right? The birthplace of what is, I think, the birthplace of the modern cannabis era. And my last couple of podcasts, I mean, everybody's probably tired of hearing it, but the economic change that's happened in that area of late, and so that's what I was kind of trying to see. I was kind of surprised to hear you say you started this in 2015, which I think which is great. I mean, you've been doing it for quite a bit longer than the economic problem. Back then, that area was booming pretty solidly from cannabis, and so to know that you've had this established for a while is great. But do you? Because one of the concerns is with the change, the pressures now on the area, the farmers just being crushed by the the economics of the tax, the overtaxation, the burden of the tax, and the regulation, and all that crap, and then and a depressed price. I mean, everybody's struggling. So there's been a lot of ideas about how to help the area, and do you feel like what you're doing is helping people to understand that area? I mean, the cannabis, the deep roots of the cannabis culture in that area, because it's not just smoking good weed. Because again, that's the cradle. We are all born out of that, one way or another. Everybody who's doing cannabis today illegally in this country, we owe that part of the world a debt of gratitude, and those people.
Yeah, thank you. I think we do owe those original, like Back to the Landers and all those people who fought all through the 80s and 90s. And like those people paid the price. Like they got families split up. They went to jail. They paid the price for like what we're all enjoying today. Like that didn't just happen. Like people got their lives destroyed for us to have what we have today. And it's really important for me to show that out. And you're absolutely right. Like farmers in Humboldt are having a really, really tough time right now. For example, we've lost about 10% of our legal farmers since the beginning of the year. Like since January 1st, we've lost 10% of our legal farmers. And that number is going down and down, more and more increasing every day.
Yeah,
So we're facing like an extinction level event for small farmers, at least. People are always going to grow weed here. It just
yeah.
like might go back to the old days of unregulated, which nobody really wants to go back. It wasn't good. I mean, it was okay. It worked, but there was
Yeah,
problems with
well,
it,
I
you
mean,
know?
there's the good part of going back and the bad part of going back.
Well, I
They don't
think if
want
we go
people to.
back, we're going to get mostly the bad and not the good. We're not going to get
Yeah, right.
$5,000 pounds anymore. We're going to
No,
be, it's not, going back doesn't mean the same, it doesn't mean going back to 1995. That's not what it means, you know?
right.
So I do think tourism can play a big part in that. And that's kind of one of the reasons I started the business. So I've done recreation and tourism my whole life. I studied tourism in college, and I was
Oh,
a whitewater
nice.
river guide for about a decade, and I ran an aquatics center. So that's always been like the front part of my life is recreation, and then the back part of my life was always weed. So I've done every part of the industry a little bit. So I'm not an expert, but I've kind of done everything just a little bit. Um, and I saw legalization coming, and it was pretty clear that the price was going to drop, and or a lot of people weren't going to be able to get legal. So one of the reasons I started the company was as an opportunity to employ people who weren't able to get legal, and then also to help give farmers an extra input, an extra revenue stream, which I think is going to be critical. So yeah, I don't really like when I first started. So I see everything through the lens of tourism because my whole life it's all I've ever done. So when I first started the business, I really thought like the only way Humboldt's going to make it economically in the long term is with some sort of tourism. Like we need to be like France is, what France is to wine. Um, and that has turned out to be true, unfortunately. I mean, I wish we could just make money selling pounds, but that's just not gonna cut it in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah, so I mean, but so the economic reality is like the difference between what tourism will bring and what the old economic structure of, like you said, $5,000 pounds. There's quite a bit of disparity there for the individual, but you really feel like this is going to still burgeon and blossom into a larger, kind of opportunity for the community at whole. Is that what you're getting to?
I mean, yeah, I think we're kind of at well, Humboldt County in general, all of us, the legal cannabis industry in California is kind of at this tipping point where it
Yeah,
could go good or it could go bad depending on how it's all remains to be seen. So,
yeah,
but I think the potential for tourism in Humboldt could be massive, the economic potential. And I tend to
yeah,
take my cue from the wine industry, from wine tourism. It's the closest thing I
yeah,
can find that's like really similar to what I want to do, you know?
yeah,
And so everyone says, oh, Humboldt should be like Napa or be like France. But a lot of people don't know what that really means. So, for
right.
example, in Napa, one third of their total economy, all their economy is wine, but one
Yeah,
third of their total economy is wine sales and production. Two-thirds of the economy in Napa is wine tourism. So it's like
yeah,
Napa doesn't make money with wine. That's kind of the misnomer. Like, and then France is even more extreme. So France, they have a more diverse economy, so it's a little bit harder to pin down. But
yeah,
of the French wine economy, 1/10 is wine sales and production, and 9/10 of the French economy is wine tourism. So, like when people think about
that's insane.
France, they think about growing wine, but that's not how France makes money.
Yeah,
They make money with wine, chateaus and wine tourism. And then just one more interesting statistic. So, Humboldt County, we used to grow all the weed for everybody. We can't anymore just because, well,
right.
lots of reasons. But
Yeah,
um, France sells about like 8 to 10% of the wine for the world, but France dominates 30% of the wine economy for the world. So I think like tourism can also give us like an outsized economic impact for how much cannabis we actually produce. So when I
yeah.
look at Napa, and if we can do it like Napa or France, yeah, we can crush it. But can we do that? That's the question.
Well, that's a big challenge. I mean, I was talking to had Ed Rosenthal on a podcast the other day, and we were talking about just kind of the same thing. And I was saying, one of the ideas about salvaging the region is a tourism aspect. And he said, well, one of the problems that exists with that is that Napa is down the road. So you've got that, and if Napa starts growing weed, then you've got wine and weed, and that's gonna, Humboldt's gonna have to go, yeah, and there's that, and there's also kind of the remoteness of Humboldt and the remoteness of all the growers. I mean, honestly, let's be realistic. Like a big reason that we grow in that part of the world is because of the safety, right? For the time frame when it was, black market, so or legacy, I guess, market. I don't know what we're supposed to call it, but anyway, when it wasn't as accepted, and you didn't want people knowing what you were doing behind the fences. But so it's a really interesting question. I think you're kind of alluding a little bit to that there's some significant challenges to really grow tourism in that area, and I mean, I know that things, small communities can thrive on things like this, but Napa's so condensed, and it's like this little tiny little road to go around a circle. I go around in 30 minutes. I've seen the whole fucking thing. And you're talking about one of the most beautiful places in the country, but dude, you might have a farm that's like 4 hours into the woods somewhere, and I mean, it's not quite exactly as condensed as so it may be a difficult reach there. I don't know.
Yeah, so we're working on. You're right about all that stuff. So that's like we have a lot of challenges, and one of the challenges is just our the region's remoteness, which I think is less of a challenge than folks think. Like people will fly 15 hours on an airplane to go to France. So
Yeah,
like
yeah,
people will come. Like, so I think the region remoteness is
yeah.
something we can work around. We have an airport here. You can fly. No one knows, but you can fly directly into Humboldt. So you can get on a plane wherever you are, and I can pick you up at the airport, and we can go get weed
Yeah.
right off, right there.
I
Um,
mean, it's beautiful. Don't get me, like literally, like if you're somebody who loves the outdoors, and that's one of the most picturesque and beautiful places in the whole country. That whole corridor, to me, that whole Humboldt corridor. I slept many nights on the road driving up and down when I was selling machines early, in my little pop tent, and the camping and the redwoods and just like, God, man, I remember, when the fog hits that little valley crevice right there, and it's so incredible and beautiful up there. So I mean, it's got a lot of appeal from that perspective as well. So, and I know, and honestly, I mean, if you fly into Santa Rosa or whatever, that's not that far of a drive either. I mean, you make it a day and you come up, and then you can spend a couple days up there. I mean,
one
imagine,
Yeah. Well, you can definitely fly like right here. You can fly into Arcata. Like we got,
yeah, yeah,
and then also, but to be honest, I don't. And then also the farms. You're right. The farms are far out in the hills because that's where we want to grow weed back in the day. But
yeah,
I think that challenge, that's something we're working on. I think that's able to overcome too, through like maybe like cooperative tasting rooms and things like that, where maybe at the end of
yeah.
your road where the pavement is, all the farms on that road get together and have like a farm stand kind of thing. So I think like maybe not every farm can have everyone visit them, but I think there is ways
Yeah.
for like almost every farm to interact with the public. Maybe not if it's bringing them on their farm, but through like farm stands or farmers markets. We have an amazing cannabis farmers market coming up on Memorial Day, or is it
Oh
Memorial Day,
wow.
May?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the holiday in May is we're having like an outdoor cannabis farmers market where you can like walk up and buy kind of buy directly. It feels like you're buying directly from the farmer.
Yeah.
So that's coming up. So there are opportunities. But to be honest, that stuff isn't the biggest challenge in Humboldt. Like that is all able to overcome. There's lots of places in the world that are hard to get to, and
Yeah.
that's like something that we can deal with. Um, the biggest challenge is the regulation challenges. So in Humboldt County, anybody who wants to offer tours needs a permit from the county, and I'm the only one that has one right now. And I welcome other people to get more, but I'm the only. We need more. And then conversely, we're the only. Well, Mendocino just got regulations, but for a long time we were the first county to have cannabis tourism specific regulations. So we regulate cannabis tourism here. So every farm that's going to have the public visit them, they need to get an extra amendment to their county permit, which only 3 farms have managed to do that out of like, well, originally we had like 1,000 farms, and now we have like 700 or 800. And only 3 have managed to do it, and a lot of people want to do it. I know like at least 30 people that want to do it. So
Is
that
it
is
a
the big
cost
challenge
issue,
right
or
now is those
is
regulations.
it a cost issue, or is it just a compliance issue, or what's the challenge? I mean, you wouldn't think it'd be a big deal.
Yeah, so there's the regulation. They're in the Humboldt County regulations. Anyone wants to check them out, but there's basically 4 performance standards that you have to meet, and some of them are difficult. So, and also the county used to interpret them differently, and they've loosened up the way they interpret it through us working with them, which is good.
Good.
So we're
Good.
all this stuff's still working on it. But one of the
Sure.
things it says it's a lot of people have a problem with is you have to be on a category 4 road. Has to go all the way to your farm. So category 4 mean I had to look it up. Category 4 is 20 feet wide with a 10-foot shoulder on each side, and it can be gravel, but that's a nice. Almost no one has a road like that.
Yeah, no one has a road like
Yeah,
that,
that's
dude.
super hard.
Not,
Yeah,
not
super
many of
hard.
the
Yeah.
farms I've been to.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that, and the county looks at it. The reason they have it in there from a safety perspective. So that what they're
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
worried about is, I think they're not quite correct, but they're worried about, oh, somebody has a heart attack and we've got to get an ambulance, or there's a wildfire and we've got to get people out. So that's
Dude,
their
in
perspective. But
San Diego they have these fucking buses that drive right into the water and they drive them around in the bay? Give me a
man, I
fucking
used to,
break. Come on.
I used to be a whitewater river guide. We used to take 8-year-old children down a 20-foot waterfall, and we would like hurt
Yeah.
people constantly, like all the time. People would get hurt, and so yeah, I think like you meant, like we can manage. It's risk. We can manage risk. Like you're allowed to go
Yeah.
skydiving. You're allowed to like take a submarine to the bottom of the ocean. It's not. Like we can do, like maybe there is a tiny extra risk to going somewhere like that, but that risk can be managed. Like we can have maybe all the guides are CPR trained. Maybe we have a
Uh,
wildfire place where we evacuate on the farm where we're safe. Well, there's a million ways to manage risk, and that's what we're working with the
yeah.
county. But that one's
Well,
been a sticker for people.
well, I'm glad you're working with them. I mean, my problem with California and why I left, to be honest with you, is it's just it's so over regulated. The taxation is a problem, obviously, especially in this industry. I mean, it's fucking, it's kind of disgusting, to be honest with you. The idea that cannabis is limitless in its funding ability is moronic, and to tax at the level they do is also, it just shows you that they're out of touch. I just don't understand, right? And so I'm glad that you're working with them to get a realistic kind of picture, but there's nothing that'll kill commerce more than regulation. I mean, that's what it's for. From one perspective, is that regulation is designed to limit, inhibit, or control commerce, right? You want to put in regulation so that we're not going to have the biggest impact, blah blah blah. But it just fucks people's lives up and creates all this issue. And you just say, okay, well, you have to mitigate this. Well, come up, give me a mitigation strategy. I mean, we do that. I know that. We even know we have to deal with, like, I can't help but having to use this particular product. So I need a mitigation strategy to do that. Okay, I'm down. Let's do it. Let's figure it out. But I mean, does it have to be X? Because I mean, I'm not paving a fucking road for 5 miles
Yeah.
up the
Well,
side
and
of that
something like that would
mountain over
cost
there.
millions of dollars for some people. Like
Yeah,
it's crazy.
millions, tens
Yeah,
of
but
millions, maybe at this point.
yeah, they have been
Yeah.
willing to work with us. So that one they haven't worked with us so far on the Category 4 roads. But another one was, so this one's weird, but it says in the regulations that the farms have to comply with the ADA, with the American with Disabilities Act, which is weird because like everyone has to comply with it. It's a law, like in Congress.
Yeah,
But they
if
made
you
like
can
a
have
double
public people there, you've got to have, yeah. And
anyway.
I think, but I've seen, so I know for a fact, I've been in Napa many times. I know for a fact there are places that are very questionably ADA compliant.
Well, the ADA is
They're
interesting.
old
So the
buildings,
ADA,
man. You
well, yes,
know?
the ADA is interesting. So the ADA says that you have to make things accessible unless it unless it is an undue burden, which is what lawyers argue about. And that
Yeah,
basically means it costs too much for how much your business makes. So an undue
yeah,
burden is one way where you don't have to like where you can comply. And another thing is if it fundamentally changes the nature of the experience. So that's why when you go to the beach, it's not paved, or when you go rafting, it's not paved, or when you go to Yosemite, Yosemite isn't paved.
it would fundamentally change the nature of me going home if I had to put a wheelchair ramp in front of my door.
Yeah. So the county came a long way on that. So so it says that every farm has to comply with the ADA. So that leaves a ton of room for interpretation, right? Which is the problem. So the
Yeah,
county
yeah,
interpreted that as every path where any tourist is ever going to go has to be paved and 4 feet
yeah,
wide. And that's just impossible. And also, a lot of the farms are on prime ag land. Like, it's not legal to pave prime ag land. We don't want to pave these farms. They're on farmland. You
yeah.
know what I mean? So that at first was a big sticker. But now, after working with the county for a couple of years, they have changed that to be one part of the garden needs to be accessible with crushed, compacted, decomposed granite. So that to me is reasonable. We can make a short path to a spot that overlooks the
Yeah,
garden, crush
yeah.
granite. That's okay. That's fine. You know what I mean? So that's an example like where they have been willing to move and make
Well, that's
something.
good.
Yeah, because that's possible. Like we can do that. We can put down gravel, but we can't pave every garden path. That's absurd.
No, no,
Um,
and I mean, to and again, it would change. It changes everything about how that company or that group of people is doing business, and it's really interesting. And I don't get me wrong. I mean, honestly, like the ADA compliancy thing is great, and it has such a benefit for our compatriots and fellow citizens who have who have struggles in that regard. And so I'm not dogging on that at all. What I am kind of dogging on is though that the government becomes so rigid in its compliance necessities that it negates commerce and negates the opportunity for people to thrive and grow and survive. And that to me is what the biggest problem is. And California is so vastly overregulated in every aspect that you can't you can't, like, there's so many laws that step on top of each other, right? So and then you look at cannabis laws and you're just like, oh my god, it's untenable situation. And then the costs and everything, it just gets to be crazy. So that's what I think is so bothersome about it. And it's unfortunate that they don't see They can't see it the other way, right? So you come in and you go, listen, all right, we're going to open this up. This looks like a great economic opportunity. We're going to do it this way, right? We're going to start to create regulation around this. So you're going to have to change as we make these rules, because we're going to make these rules to make this better for everyone, right? So here we go. Let's go to work. You're going to be representing this. Let's communicate about how we can. We have a safety issue. Let's see how we can mitigate. We have this, that, the other thing, and instead they kind of go the other way, where it's like, you better put all that shit in place, man. And you're like, I can't afford that crap, man. And
No, yeah, you're totally right. I mean, the ADA is important to me. Like, I have disabled people in
yeah,
my family. We all might be disabled for
yeah,
temporarily in our life. You know what I mean? So the ADA, like, I want to make it accessible. It's good for business. Like, why do I want to turn
right,
people away? You know?
right, correct.
And same thing with the safety stuff. Like, yeah, I don't want all my customers to burn up in a wildfire. I don't want somebody to die from a heart attack when they could have got saved. Like,
Really?
but there's ways to manage those things without. And we can do it all. Like, that's the point. Is like
Yeah,
we can
yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
safe and we
So
can
what's
be
interesting, yeah,
accessible.
and what's interesting is, I mean, so most people don't have this experience that you have right now. Like, most people don't even understand that the level of work that you're doing with your governing body, or with the people who are making the rules, right? So and that's what this is really the beauty of this country is, that we have that opportunity at all, right? And you're able to work with them, and I think that, because I've talked to a couple people that are in that area, and people are trying to get reform on the taxation as well, and trying to get them to understand that, like, you're choking out, you're killing the goose, you know what I mean? And if you kill the goose, then nobody's going to make it, and you're not gonna have the thriving kind of growth and economy that we want to have. So um, they're being receptive more so than they are in Sacramento, right? Like, Sacramento is like,
Yeah.
fucking bam, that's it. You comply or you die. And I actually literally had a conversation. Is why I left California, and I've never told anybody this, but I had a conversation with someone who is a code enforcement on an issue in my company, and I was like, listen, I mean, there has to be some mitigating way to work around this. We have to be able to figure this out, because you're putting this. I can't do this, and there's like, no, there's no working this out. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, you can't. There has to be some way, because this is a functional situation. I can't undo this. There has to be a way to figure this out. Everybody else figures it out. Why can't we figure this out? And they just stick. Like, no, the rule says, it says this, and that's it. You're done. That's it. So I'm like, oh, fuck you, then I'm gone. But
A
it's
lot
not
of
like
people.
it happens to everybody,
Yeah.
and over in there. It seems like it's crazy. But anyway, the point is, I'm glad you're working with them, and it's good to know that they're receptive, and that they're hoping to, hopefully they're seeing the writing on the wall. Like, the cash cow that cannabis is not going to be that. Let's be real. The cash in cannabis isn't going to return to that area anywhere near how it was in the 90s. It just isn't.
Yeah, I find, yeah, everyone knows that. Like, like, I'm talking everyone, like, at the grocery store, like grandmas at the farmers market know it. Like, everybody knows
Yeah,
it because it's so baked into what we do up here. No
yeah,
pun intended. Yeah. And I find the local politicians and regulators are pretty willing to deal with us. And for tourism specifically, like, they get it. They want to see tourism happen too.
right.
Uh, all of them. But the further away you get from here, the more resistance you run into. So, like, even like our state senator, our state congressman is pretty good. Even our local, like, like our national congressman is pretty good. But then when you start to get, I mean, by good, I mean by they understand the issues and they want to work towards solutions, But yeah, the further away you get, like, all the people at the state in Sacramento, they don't know what's going on, and especially, like, with anything cannabis, they don't know what's going on. But really, with Humboldt, they don't know what's going on because we are different up here. Like, we grow, most of our weed is outdoor, most of it's full term, It's just one cycle, and kind of the regulations are really built more around, like, mixed light or greenhouses because those are the folks that kind of have more money. So yeah, yeah, it's not good. But the local folks I do find are pretty good. To be honest, like, I'm politically an anarchist. Like, I don't like hierarchy. I like to rip down hierarchy. We are like, and I'm not a big fan of the government. I've gotten in trouble with the law myself in the past. Like, me and the government don't get along generally.
Right.
But I found the local government here, the county government, to be really receptive. Like, surprisingly, like,
That's
I thought I was
great.
going to come in and, I mean, you can call them and make an appointment and they'll talk to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is helpful, and they will work towards a solution, as long as it's something reasonable. But yeah, I've been really
Right.
surprised and happy with I'm not happy with them. It could always be better, but I was pleasantly surprised by how easy it was to access and how willing they were to like work towards solutions.
Yeah, I mean it's such a difference, right? So I moved to Las Vegas, and for me it was such a difference in just the receptivity of the government and the openness, and let's be realistic, Las Vegas said, hey, we're gonna be the cannabis tourist destination. Like they're like all about it. Like they're pushing lounges, they're pushing push, right? They're trying to keep separated from gambling. They're trying to keep separated from alcohol. They're trying to do these things, but they're still trying to push this idea. And so we were very, very warmly welcomed, and we got some nice incentives to come out here. And it's been a completely different experience, to be honest with you. And so it is nice to have a friendly government, or a government that's at least not antithetical to your perspective on things. And otherwise, I'm just like you. I'm like, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
I don't I don't want to send you any tax money anymore. I'm over it.
Yeah, but they've been all right, and they do seem to understand like the potential of cannabis tourism. A lot of people
Yeah,
do here, like again, like and kind of whatever square people, regular people, like they kind of get
yeah,
it. Like it's not a
yeah,
stretch. Like I thought of it. I mean, I thought about cannabis tourism, but I'm not the only one. Anyone who's been up here is like, this would be
yeah,
dope to bring my friends up here. I mean, it's not a stretch to think
yeah,
about cannabis tourism in Humboldt. It's a beautiful place, anyways. We do a lot of tourism, anyways. We have this
yeah.
amazing story. We have all. It's not a stretch. You don't have to be super creative to think that cannabis tourism in Humboldt could like be a good idea. It's not.
No,
Executing is the
it
hard
is a
part.
great idea. Really the question is, you know, how's it all going to balance, right? How's the cannabis community going to balance? How are they going to flush out? What kind of consolidation is going to happen? Is it going to go away? And that's one of the things I think that the pessimists will say, like it's just going to die, and I have some pretty popular people and well-known people think that, and I'm just like, I don't want to think that way because I'm attached to the area emotionally in some respect. I mean, I drove that road, the 101, a fucking thousand times. I've been on many excursions up through that area. My dad lived in Lake County for a while, and so I'm very familiar. And I mean, aside from growing up there and living there, which I never unfortunately was ever able to do, it's one of my favorite places in the country. And so I think about that, and I go, well, what is it, that we can do? And so my thoughts are about keeping it going, whatever that is. And of course, it's going to change. But I love the idea of the tourism thing. And again, what's interesting, I think you made a very salient point when you said that, that the percentage of revenue off of tourism is so much higher in those areas. I was unaware of that, and I appreciate that information because I think, that is really like when I go to Napa. My wife and I love it. We go to Napa all the time because we just enjoy it. It's a part of you're around a lot of people. You go to the it's chaos and crazy and it's all touristy bullshit and it. But it's part you enjoy that. There's something to that experience that makes it worthwhile. It's like some people like to go to Disneyland. I fucking hate Disneyland, but you know what I mean? Like I would go on a cannabis tour in Humboldt just to fucking experience it because I mean when you see like what people did, like just the history. I mean, it's kind of like the Bonnie and Clyde thing. We look at all these old gangsters and all this shit. We're like fascinated, but this is modern time. Like, no, I don't want to use the word gangster. I don't want it to be too negative, but I mean, it's modern times. Like massive people putting in massive amounts of energy to keep a culture or a product development in cannabis that was not legal hidden. And the amount of energy that's put into that and the creativity that was put into that is pretty astounding. And I think that's worth seeing and worth preserving, for crying out loud. I mean, it's a throwback to prohibition of alcohol. I mean, we had that gangster kind of stuff from then, but in this regard, it's still a prohibition moment, and that's the seat of change. I don't know. I think it's cool. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I
the
totally
pictures won't
agree.
be black and white; they'll be color.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. When I agree, and we also have like we're still like okay. So a lot of people do worry about like what's going to happen in Humboldt. Are we going to get wiped out? Are we going to remain relevant 10 years from now? And I think we're kind of on the teeter totter. Like,
Yeah.
not maybe we will get wiped out, and won't. No one will talk about Humboldt 20 years from now. Well, people will talk about like a history thing, like oh, Humboldt used to be whatever. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I don't know. Generally, I'm a pessimist in life. I'm a pessimist, but with cannabis in Humboldt, I don't know. For some reason, I feel like relatively optimistic, and I think
Nice.
like the way it could the best way it could work out is like with tourism, like you don't need to grow all the weed in the, I think, well, okay, let me back up. So I think the cannabis industry is going to like differentiate, and there's going to be a lot of different parts of it. Like somebody's going to grow just for distillate, like Colombia probably is going to grow just a
Yeah.
bunch of distillate. They're going to be pumping out tanker ships full of distillate or whatever. And then there's going to be other places that are like growing indoor. Maybe they have like sustainable electricity nearby that makes make sense. And then other places are going to be producing what are like concentrates. And I think like it's going to become like splintered. And one of those splinters is going to be like small craft production, like small batch wine or small batch
Yeah.
cheese or small batch beer. And that never like dominates the market. But those people live really healthy, happy lives. Like
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah. I mean, they
like
live comfortable.
yeah, exactly. Like the small cheesemakers of the world produce like I'm making this up, but they produce a tiny percentage of all the cheese in the world. But those people
Yeah.
like live pretty comfortable lives. You know, they're independent,
Yeah.
they have farms, and I think like that is the future for Humboldt. Not that we're gonna like dominate the industry. We're not gonna be selling everybody's weed. We're not
Yeah.
like everyone's gonna be asking like everyone's gonna want Humboldt weed. But I think we're gonna be like maybe France or Napa. Like France, like I say, they only sell 10% of the wine for the whole world. But everybody knows France, and everyone goes to France,
Yeah.
and they multiply that by 10. And France is a really good, strong economy. People live really comfortable, good, independent lives in France, and that doesn't take France having to grow 90% of the wine for the whole world. You know who does that? Lodi.
Right.
Like, and I don't want to be Lodi. You know what I mean? Like, and that's
Yeah.
fine. Somebody's going to be the Lodi of weed. It's going to be Salinas or whatever. You know what I mean? Or somewhere else.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But that, and
Yeah.
I
For
think that's
sure.
fine. Salinas can have. You guys can have 60% of the market. You guys can have 90% of the market. All we really need is like 5 to 10% of the market and a robust like tourism economy along with it. And I think like no one's going to be billionaires, but I think we can continue to like live our lives and contribute to the cannabis culture in a relevant way.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
possible.
yeah. I think that's. I mean, I think that's a realistic kind of a perspective of it. And I mean, of course, we don't know what the future holds, obviously, but I hope it's. I hope that's the case. I hope that we're able to see it, blossom into something that's valuable and new and kind of different. And honestly, I mean, like I said, I couldn't imagine a better place to go visit. To be honest with you, if you're going to go visit, especially if you're going to go on like a cannabis adventure. I mean, you want to go downtown Las Vegas and go to a bunch of dispensaries, or you want to go to fucking Humboldt County and see the nature. I mean, it's beautiful up there. So I don't know. To each his own, obviously, and some of these indoor operations are really awesome, and I've seen some pretty killer stuff. I've been in some of the biggest in the world, and it always amazes me. It's always kind of new and exciting and stuff. But that's a whole different thing. It's a totally different thing. Like to see a craft farm, which is no different than a farm that raises sheep or goats or whatever. You just don't have that experience very often because we live in these bubbles in these cities and stuff. But to go out to a farm and see animals and see cannabis being grown with other crop, and you're like, oh, it's a plant, huh?
And they don't
Cool.
really compete, like the small cheese grower at your farmer's market, like they're not really a competitor with craft. I don't think
Right.
craft worries about the small guys. I don't think small
No.
guys worry about craft. They kind of exist.
No.
They're both making
Yeah.
cheese, but they live in separate worlds. And I think like Humboldt, our my hope for Humboldt is it will kind of be like that. Like, yeah, we don't care what our cookies is doing. They're doing their thing. They're making money. We're
Yeah.
making money too. It's like
Yeah.
the pie is big enough for everybody. Um, yeah.
It is. It's just, I think what happened. I think too. I mean, this interesting kind of segue into part of the change is that um, and see, I'm in a weird spot in it because we're manufacturing and we're pushing the boundaries on automation and equipment to produce more and help people be more competitive, blah 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 blah. That's our mantras. Like you got to automate in order to survive, and then you got to automate in order to thrive. And that, so we're pushing the people who are getting bigger, but our roots are not there. So it's an interesting kind of thing. You get caught in that spot and you're like, well, but I have customers that are both, right? I still have customers who are, and that's why we designed our equipment the way we did, because we have customers who are like, you know I'm never gonna machine trim, and they see it and they go, oh, well, I can do that. We'll do that because that just looks like hand trim, and that kind of attention to detail, right? So that's the kind of thing that comes out of that craftiness, right? And you're right. I mean, these big guys, they don't care, and the little guys shouldn't care about those big guys either, because honestly, like you said, if I'm gonna eat a craft single, I'm gonna eat a craft single. But I'm gonna throw it in my pie hole and move on. But if I'm gonna, I'm gonna go get a nice piece of cheese, man. You're gonna spend a little bit more on it, but I'm gonna enjoy that with some nice crackers and maybe a glass of wine, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a different experience, and it's always gonna be that way. I mean, beer's the same way. I don't know if you're a beer fan, but I mean,
Yeah.
beer, the renaissance of beer was astounding to me. Like, I grew that. That's like in my prime, right? Like 30s and 40s and even now it's still booming. But I love beer. Beer's fucking amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
like I don't think like North Coast Brewery worries about
yeah,
like Budweiser.
like
Like they don't. I
Budweiser.
don't think they even worry about each other really. I
Yeah.
don't think. You know what I mean?
No, I
And
don't
I
think
think
so
like
either because
that's the key is
it,
like people. It's
yeah,
like man, people always ask, "Oh, you worried about?" Uh, they're always talking about like Seagrams or like
yeah,
Marlboro coming in. Which I was like, man, I don't. Those people aren't even in my world. Like I don't
yeah,
think
yeah.
about them. I think about them as much as I think about. I don't know, man. Mexico invading the United States. It's like not a thing I think
Yeah,
about. It's
it's
just
just not on the
like I'm
list.
just
That's
not
for
worried about
sure.
Marlboro or Seagrams because they have a different product. Like Seagrams can't
Yeah,
do what we
yeah,
do. Like
yeah,
Seagrams can do what they do, and that's great. Like
yeah,
whatever, man. Seagrams is fine. Like again, like I like Bud Light. I like Bud Light. I like Coors Light, and I like North Coast Brewery. I like
yeah.
there's room for all of it. Like Coors Light has a place. You know what I mean?
It
Like I
does.
love Coors Light on a hot day next to
It
the
does.
river.
It's not a place I like to visit, but it does have a place.
Yeah, but I think
When
there's
I was
enough, like
younger, it was a different conversation.
yeah, there's enough space. You know what I mean? Like it's
There
enough.
is,
Yeah.
man, and I think that's one of the things too. I think is so interesting is to watch the growth and the change. Right, the struggle is always where people die. Not by die, I mean where the economy changes. It's where people, it's where you're on the leading edge of it, right? And that's where Humboldt is right now. I think a couple of years ago we saw that economic crash in Oregon. That was interesting to watch that and to see what kind of came out of that. I don't think it'll be the same results that you see in Humboldt. Humboldt's going to have to do a little bit different thing. But because Oregon is like kind of prone to much larger grow area, right? And they have, you know, there's a lot of illegal shit going on up there right now. We don't want to talk about that, but anyway, which is funny. Now that it's legal, it's still illegal. But anyway, the point is, whatever Humboldt has to do, man, they're going to do because people are resilient, right? They don't want to give it up, right? Some people are going to give it up, so they're going to be like, "Fuck it, I'm done." It's too much work. It's too much hassle. I'm going broke. I'm doing all this. I don't love this that much, um, you know. And so there will be people that go, but there's people like you who are going, wait, I see opportunity. I see opportunity here. There's a chance. Let's change something. Let's do something different. Let's see if we can, let's see if we can create this. And that's the beauty of this country. And I mean, that's the human spirit, but I mean, it's also the beauty of this country. There's a lot of freedom here to be able to kind of pursue those kind of things. And hopefully, the government doesn't choke you out before you start, and then, and then you actually get an opportunity to have a little fun and make a little money and have a good life. I mean, it's not about being rich; it's about living a good
Yeah.
life.
Well, that's the other thing about Humboldt. Like I think, like we may not as a community. I don't know if we have the same goals as other people. Like we don't.
Yeah,
I don't know a lot of people here that want to make billions of dollars. You know what I mean, or millions
yeah,
even. You know what I mean? Like most of the
yeah,
people I know in the industry, they want to pay off their property. They want to have a college fund for their kids. They want to go on
yeah.
vacation 3 or 4 times a year. They want to have a car that's 5 years old.
Works.
You know what I mean? It works. You know what I mean? They want to eat quality food. They want to have a nice
Yeah.
glass of
Well, I
wine.
think that's a tie-in too. I mean, this is one of the things I loved about when I go to Napa. It's the food culture, right? That's a tie-in too. I mean, and I know that culture exists in Humboldt as well. It's more of the, well, what when I grew up, it would have been the hippie culture, right? The back to the earth culture, the organic co-op culture, the organic farm culture. That whole thing, which we have so much veganism and kind of awareness now throughout the whole country. You would imagine that would be a mecca for bringing people like that. Like, come see how cannabis is grown on the land, incorporated with a farm, and you have your animals and you have your and that's I don't know. I would see that's a big part of the allure of the area because it's how the people. It's not how everybody lives, obviously, but it is generally speaking, culturally how you guys, how Humboldt operates. It's definitely more organic focused and more, earth and environment focused and that kind of thing. So it should have the appeal.
Well, that's kind of thing that like is kind of one of the secrets of my tour is like the cannabis is kind of like the hook, and then but what people really love and what I get a lot of feedback is they just love learning about Humboldt and like the hit
Yeah.
like how Humboldt became Humboldt, the back to the
Yeah.
land movement, camp in the '80s, how we fought the government and won. Like, well, not me, but like the people like there's not many groups of people that fought the federal government and then won. It's
Yeah.
like the Taliban and the Viet Cong. Like, there's not many people that fought us, and
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't really win when you go up against the government usually. You know what I mean? But we
No,
did.
no, no,
Look, we
not
like we
generally
won.
speaking.
You know, like
Especially here on the home turf, man. They're on
yeah,
their home field.
yeah. Look at the Black Panthers. Like most people get crushed. You know what I mean? Like, look at the
Yeah.
Occupy movement. You know.
Yeah.
So and it was not no there was no cost. Like there was lives that got shattered and destroyed in that
Yeah.
war. You know what I mean? But yeah, there's not many people like that. And then also just like sustainability, self sufficiency,
Yeah.
growing your own food, doing things yourself. Oh, that's all coming back around again in popularity. And like as frankly the world gets less and less stable, that stuff everyone's realizing how important.
Yeah.
Like maybe I
Right,
should
right.
learn
The
how to grow
cost
tomatoes. Maybe
creator.
it's nice to learn how to grow tomatoes. Maybe I'm curious how you get eggs from a chicken. Like more and more people are starting to get curious about that for lots of different
Yeah.
reasons. But that is kind of like that's really the thing people love about Humboldt is really learning about that stuff.
Did you just say people are curious for a lot of different reasons about chickens? Is that what you said?
They are, yeah.
Fucking A. Oh my God. Well, I grew up in that hippie kind of idealism with my family, and so it doesn't. You're born or you're brought up one way. It doesn't leave you.
Yeah.
And so and my wife is so funny. She's like, "Want a goat?" I'm like, "Fuck, okay, let's get a goat, man. I'm down." I need some grass first because I'm living in the desert. So if I get some grass, I can have a goat. Keep the grass down. Then we're good.
Yeah. Well, that's like the thing about cannabis tours, and it's really cool. Like one of the things I've done tours my whole life, and that's all I think about really. But the cool thing about cannabis tours is cannabis. The best thing about cannabis is cannabis makes everything better. So it's cannabis tours is all about cannabis and whatever. You know what I mean? Cannabis and
Yeah,
food, cannabis and surfing, cannabis and
yeah,
redwoods,
yeah,
cannabis and fishing, cannabis and massages. You can add cannabis to almost anything and make it better. And that's kind of the
yeah.
cool thing about cannabis tours is almost anything can be cannabis tourism if you just incorporate
Yeah.
cannabis into it. That's the cool thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, and it doesn't leave you in the same spot as like alcohol.
Yeah,
In that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
respect, right? Like you go too many beers, you're not going surfing, man.
No, no, it's hard. Yeah, yeah,
Well, you shouldn't
exactly. Yeah.
be. You probably do, but you shouldn't be. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's been fun.
That's
We've had
pretty
like I've
interesting.
had more than 2,000 guests so far come. Like a lot of people have
Really,
come. Yeah,
that's great.
from all continents except Antarctica. I'm waiting for somebody from Antarctica, but I've had people
You
come from
wait for
all
some. There's
continents.
like only 5 people down there, man. It's
It's
gonna be
hard.
wait, maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah, people come from all over. I also get a lot. So a lot of people are like tourists, but I get a lot of business people that come out too. They kind of want to
Really?
see like how we do things in Humboldt, and a lot of them kind of want to ask. A lot of people in the cannabis, they're getting into the cannabis industry are wary
Yeah.
of people trying to sell them BS, and they should be because there's a lot of people trying to sell BS. So they kind of want to just talk to a farmer and like ask questions and stuff, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, come on, man. Like, okay, so without Humboldt, we wouldn't have the knowledge that we have now, right? I mean, don't get me wrong; it's not all developed there, but it was a seed of knowledge. Like it's generational knowledge, right? So there's so much and breeding and of the plant and understanding of the plant and the changing in the plant. All of that was kind of coming from there. So you can't take that out. Like you can't just cannabis. I remember I tell this story. Everybody's fucking heard this story. But when I first went to Colorado and I saw the first big indoor grows, and I was like, oh wow. And they hadn't put up rooms for drying, right? And they hadn't, so it's like, like, oh, wow, we dry on top of the grow room. It's like a little 3-foot crawl space. I'm like, you crawl up in there and hang it. Hey, good for you. But that's the thing, like, that's the thing that you get when you don't have the full knowledge, right? When you go after something, and I've seen it over and over and over again where people go after growing, right? So their focus is, oh, I'm going to grow, and this is the number of lights, this is my canopy, this is the volume, da 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 da. And what they miss is, to support this, I need, right? That's
Or
all
where are you going to sell
secondary.
it? That's my question. Is
If
like,
they,
great, you're going to grow 1,000 acres of weed. Like, where's the weed going to go? Like, what are you going to
yeah.
do with this weed? 'Cause it's not worth anything. Like,
Do you
what?
have any idea how I had a guy when hemp came on, I was getting these calls from these guys like, oh yeah, I need to process. I'm doing 100 acres of hemp. I'm like, do you have any idea? I mean, you're talking to me and you want to do this in 3 months. I said, do you have any idea? This is we should have started 18 months ago. We should have started this conversation 18 months ago. We could have started planning this out. I said, do you have a foundation? Do you have a building? What do you have? Do you have anything? I mean, because I can make you a machine, but I can't do it in 3 months. We can do whatever needs to be done, but where are you at in your thought process? Like, you just grew 1,000 acres. You just fucking threw it in the ground and planted it. Do you have any idea how to get it out of the ground? I mean, what are you going to do with it next? And that was what the crash. I don't know if it was 2 years ago when
Yeah, no, I remember.
exploded and imploded, and all these people lost all this fucking money. And I'm just like, dude, you guys just didn't really, I know that everybody thinks that Coca-Cola is going to buy CBD and it's going to be in every product in the world, but that takes time. Coca-Cola doesn't just go, hey, here, squirt some CBD in their Coke. They have scientists and studies. They're not putting anything in there until they fucking know. They're not doing, not taking a chance of poisoning 30% of the population of the world. They're just not gonna fucking do it. So there's this time frame, but everybody thought, oh, bam, they just went after it and they kind of fucking went crazy, and they didn't have any planning or foresight. But I see this in cannabis all the time as well. That's what I was getting to. People are getting better now, but they don't know, and the reason they don't know is because they didn't do it before, and nobody on their team really did it. And that's what the value of going bring this all back.
Yeah.
The reason that's valuable to talk to a farmer is it's like, hey, yeah, you got a barn for that shit?
And it is basic, and some of it is just that basic, or a lot of it is that basic. But also, like, a lot, like, these people aren't getting that information anywhere else. They're getting somebody trying to be like sell and shit. So like they don't trust anybody. So like when they can talk to a farmer and they know has been doing it for a long time, they know that person isn't trying to sell them anything. That farmer's got no skin in the game. You know what I mean? That's super valuable. Just to be like, oh, what am I missing? Like, here's my plan. Is there any holes in it? Like, and that kind of, especially in the very beginning, when you're building that foundation of a business for the other farmers, it's wildly valuable. Because you're right, the farmer can be like, have you thought about growing? Because it generally takes the same amount of, if you're going to dry all of it at once, it takes the same amount of space as it did to grow it. So if you've got 10 acres of weed, you better have 10 acres of a warehouse, or you better stagger your harvest, or you better have more than one harvest a year, or you better something. But like, if you're planning on drying it, but like, and I think it's really valuable to just like really start at those basics, because people do jump ahead and they're thinking lights and pounds and how do I trim it? And it's like, whoa. Let's like start at the very beginning here, which sounds like you're very good at with people, and that provides a lot of value. Like, because people get ahead of themselves and they waste. I'm telling the guy who knows, but people spend so much money before they even know what they're spending money on, and it's really valuable to start.
It's so true, and it's such a young industry. So the blueprint isn't published in a place that you would expect it to be. You can find that information, but you have to be willing to look, and then you have to really, you have to stop thinking about it. We're human beings are optimists in their planning, right? We're always optimistic, like, oh, I'm going to make $1 billion. Oh, I'm going to do a gajillion. Oh, I can do this. I can do that. There's this dream thing, and most people don't go beyond the dream because the steps into reality are so difficult to make. And then some people do make that step into reality, and then they realize that they didn't plan it out enough, so they miss those opportunities. And those who become successful are the people who learn how to do the planning portion and learn how to stick to it and still be malleable and change and move with the tides, right? So it's this whole growth process. You just don't throw a fucking bunch of money at it and become successful. Money is very, very, very valuable and very, very helpful, but it doesn't solve the problem if you didn't build the fucking room to dry your plants. It doesn't solve it. You still gotta go do that. And and if you start when you're harvesting, it takes months and months to pull permits and all this shit. Like, people just don't have that. So I don't know. I think that there's opportunity, absolutely, and I think it's great that people are going back up there and talking to the people who know, because there's so much value in that community that could be extracted.
Well, like the thing I find that people are a lot really the business people that visit are really impressed with is like the simplicity of it. Like they go to
Yeah,
a farm and they're like, okay, where's the combine? Like, no, this is it. Like it's just the plants and like
it's
there's a hoop
me.
house maybe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I'm the
those kind of lessons
combine.
are wildly valuable too. Like, man, maybe I don't need like all this. Maybe I don't need a massive stainless steel structure. Maybe I can just throw something up with 2x4s or whatever, stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
You know what I
maybe
mean?
and a piece of sheet of plastic.
Yeah,
Shit still grows.
yeah. And it grows great, fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Well, I
yeah,
think that's always been what's funny too is and I know part of this is, I mean, listen, we're just gonna go talk about whatever, it doesn't matter. But part of this is too is that we push so hard to get legal, we push this medical thing, and what a fucking nightmare that is. And I don't mean that like that there's any issue with cannabis as a medicine. I don't have a problem with that. And all that. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is talking about jumping into the most regulated, difficult fucking environment you could possibly do. And you're gonna take a fucking plant and you're gonna make it medical.
yeah, we should have made it a supplement. We should have kept it a supplement.
Yeah. Just insanity, man. You know what I mean? Because he got these companies that they're spending billions of dollars on fucking shit to make a plant medical, and it's just like you can't. You know, it's a square peg round hole. You're not fucking doing it. Don't worry about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. There's a lot of states that like kind of like they're so stuck on the medical part of it that like they want the weed to be like sterile. I remember that was a big
Yeah,
part in California. It's like you can't have any mold. It's like, man, the mold is you need it on the plant. Like the
yeah.
mold
It's
like
kind of
kills.
part of the deal.
Yeah, like I can have a little bit of mold, or I can spray with a bunch of chemicals to keep the bugs away. Like,
Yeah,
what do you guys want? Like, nobody
yeah.
wants sterile weed. But yeah,
Yeah,
it
no,
is
I mean
it is funny.
sterility on anything that you consume is probably not a good plan. I mean,
No,
you don't even want to drink sterile water, to be honest.
no,
You
yeah,
want to make sure it's got something in it, dude.
yeah,
Otherwise, we get weak.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Catch
Yeah,
some
nobody likes
shit.
distilled water.
Oh
Yeah,
my god, it's so true though. But I mean, there's this concept, like I said, like you go to when you start talking about medicine and medical, I pharmacology. That's the conversation. That's where you go,
yeah,
and you cannot take a plant that all the different environmental impact things infect it and change the chemical structure or the chemical expression of the plant throughout its growth. So if you're not doing everything exactly the same, it's not going to be exactly the same, and then you're not going to have exactly the same amount in exactly the same amount. So you can't, so you're just like this is not even fucking possible. So dosing becomes a different conversation. So that medical side is that medical side. I'm not talking about medicine. The
mm,
medicine side, the traditional healing side, is different. I'm talking about the medical, like pharmacology, pharmaceutical side of things. When you're talking about that, plants don't fit. That's just not how it works. That's an extracted process through some chemical kind of reduction. You know what I mean? So that's that. And so you can, I think, I don't know. I just laugh when people are
no,
like,
no,
I want the sterile plant.
no,
Yeah,
you're
good
totally
luck,
right.
buddy.
Well, now I'm hearing a lot of my guests are having the conversation about like federally legalizing and this and that's a whole freaking can of worms. Like people do not understand how complicated that is and how many ways it could go bad. Like yeah, weed should be legal, but like there's many ways to go bad with it. And a lot of people come to me and they're like, oh yeah, they're gonna reschedule it. They're gonna take it from Schedule 1 to 2 or 3 or 4. And I'm always trying to like, no, that's bad, dude. You don't want weed to be Schedule 4. Aspirin is Schedule 4. You can't grow aspirin in your backyard. You know what I mean? Like it's not. It needs to be taken out of the scheduling. It needs to be like
Yes.
alcohol and tobacco and supplements or whatever. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's an
Yeah.
interesting question though, because that medical thing, people are trying to force it into that like that DEA class system, and it just doesn't fit. Like it's not a class 4. It should be like alcohol, tobacco, or supplements. But it is such a nuanced conversation. We need so much more education with that because people, like that general public out there that just like smokes weed, is ready to legalize at, at the drop of the hat under any circumstances. And I think a lot of people don't realize like how it like not all legalization federally is good. Like there's a good way, and there's
Yeah.
a couple of good ways, and like hundreds of bad ways, in my opinion. So that's one thing I
Well, I
love to
mean,
talk to
yeah,
people
you're
about.
so right. You're so right because you're talking about that. We're talking about again that regulation issue, and that's where people who don't know dick about diddly do goes, swilling it around and trying to figure out how to manage something they have no clue about. And you know, I during this conversation with Ed, he was like, it's criminal that in California, with the level of legality that we have, some people in California are in counties where it's illegal to grow a plant in your backyard. That's asinine. It's a fucking plant. I get, I get the brewing stuff. Like I get stuff like that where there's some skill and stuff like that, or some potential danger maybe involved in it. But I don't get the plant issue. Like it's one way or the other, man. You can't go, oh, okay, we're gonna fucking criminalize the little guys. Just it's bullshit. And this is what you're talking about. What's gonna happen? Exactly what's gonna happen if the federal government doesn't do this the right way. And I don't think they're going to, because honestly, I think the big money's going to push them not to. The lobbyists are going to get it done the way they want it. An example of this, and it's kind of a weird example, but I don't know if you remember when we were talking about ethanol and corn, like all this corn, they're like, oh, you can't turn corn into fuel. It's food. Like, no, we do this already. That's how you make feed. You take corn, you ferment it, you pull the alcohol out, and then you feed it to the animals, because you can't feed it in its natural state because it killed the fucking animals. It's not how it works. So, we do this already. It's just waste, right? So anyway, but this is how the federal government and the lobbyists work. They get in and they fucking monkey fuck the deal because the people who sit at the top don't understand shit about it. And then that's what I'm totally with you, man. Like, deschedule it. That's what you do. You deschedule it and you let the states make the rules. Now, the states will get it wrong. That's okay. But at least you're going to give it an opportunity. If you let the federal government come out of the chute with guidelines around it, we're fucked, man. I just, and like you said, you change it to Schedule 2, Schedule 3, Schedule 4, and all of a sudden that list of rules is going to be all over your ass. And you're going to be like, whoa, wait a minute. We can't, what?
I always tell people, like, if we just Schedule 4,
put everybody out of business like that.
Yeah. I'm always telling people, if we just Schedule 4, it's like aspirin or ibuprofen. And how many people do you know that make their own aspirin, ibuprofen? How much ibuprofen can you buy at the farmer's market? How many local?
I grow the best, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
I grow the best ibuprofen.
It doesn't work. It destroys everything we've built for the last 25 years. Like, it's all gone if it goes Schedule 4. You know what I mean? But the scary part to me isn't, like, I think you're right. Like the lobbyists and the big corporations, they're going to do what they do. That's what they do. But the scary thing to me is, like, the general public is so uninformed that they will let them. And that is a big problem. Is, like, everyone I talk to is like, yay, federal legalization, it's happening next week. I can't wait. It's like, it's already done for them. So, like, the regular people aren't tuned in enough to, like, give the input that they need to, like, maybe try to battle back those lobbyists and stuff like that. Like, I think anything that any announcement of legalization, like, the general public's going to clap their hands and they're going to stop thinking about it immediately, which is a big problem. So I'm always trying to get the word out, man. Like, the general weed smoking public needs to, like, educate themselves about federal legalization and what they think should happen, because what they think should happen and what will actually happen are there's a gulf of difference between them.
Well, it's always so much more complex, and I mean, you're obviously paying enough attention, but most people don't, and I think it's so unfortunate, and there's really smart people that don't, and I think that's, and then you get off the cuff comments from people, and again, you're like, you don't have any idea what you're talking about, you know what I mean? You really should take a step back and fucking study what you're talking about, because we could find ourselves in a really bad situation. And it would be to the detriment of us, of people, not to the detriment of money or business, because it's never going to go to a place that isn't going to benefit somebody who has a lot of money. That's how it works. So what we want to make sure is that when it does happen, we can keep the guys that are on the ground level involved. Otherwise, I mean, they're going to take it away from you. That's what they're going to do with it. I mean, they effectively took alcohol away from us, with the, so, I mean, one of the kids that used to work for me made the best moonshine. Fucking unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. Like, they were just really good at their job, and they made a really great moonshine. I was not a moonshine guy, but that was something special, but that's a family craft recipe. I don't know how many fucking generations that is, but that's illegal. Like, what? Hello, we're in the same spot here, man. And you can find, the guy who, that guy who has 3 or 4 generations in Humboldt County could be finding himself in a fucking pickle because he can no longer back in the black, in the black market. Only there won't be a market for it, right? You'll be stuck in the illegality of it, but you won't have an outlet for it. It won't be worth it. So. It can be bad, man. I know that.
Yeah. I think we're very much at a tipping point. Humboldt County, I think we've always been like a magnification or a microcosm of the larger cannabis thing. And I feel like we're at a tipping point. Also, California is at a tipping point. Also, federally, we're at a tipping point. Maybe even internationally, we're at a tipping point. But I feel like we are very much teetering, all of us right now. And it really could go either way. So I think it's a critical time for people to help push it the way it needs they want it to go. You know what I mean? Like, I think individuals right now have more influence about the cannabis industry than ever in the history of humanity. Like, people
Yeah.
out there listening to this podcast have more influence than they've ever had ever,
Yeah.
because we're at that teetering point. So little differences can make big differences in the future.
It can.
So I
You
really
know,
encourage people,
and
like, get involved. Like, if you haven't been
for
getting
sure.
involved before, get involved now. Like, or even if that
Get
means just
educated
educating
too.
yourself. Yeah.
Get educated too. You know, don't just be a consumer. You know, and it's funny. I mean, because we have a relationship with some of the big brands, and you know, we like the big brands. They're great people too, and they're doing their thing. But you know, the way they market and the way they push the consumer. You know, it's a very different kind of consumption oriented focus on the marketing, and their consumer is then left without a significant portion of knowledge, which is normal. I mean, this is normal. Like, most people who drink Coors Light don't know shit about beer, right? They just don't know. I didn't even know there's anything else out there. They just drink beer because they want to drink beer. And but you know, there is more, and there is more value. And I think, you know, just with all the knowledge that's out there and the availability of information, I mean, educate yourself. Don't vote with your fucking ideology around your party lines, man. Listen to the people who are up there doing their thing and talk and see where they're coming from. Because, you know, I'm not opposed. You know, guys who say, "Oh, cannabis, cannabis, cannabis." I'm not necessarily voting for that guy because he's saying cannabis. I mean, that's what they did when they fucking got Biden in office. That's the most anti-cannabis guy we've had in a long time. I hate to tell you, that administration is a pharmaceutical fucking big business administration. They don't have, and then when they figure out, and when they do cannabis, it ain't for you. I
Yep.
can guarantee you that, right? But that promise, like, oh, we're gonna vote for this guy, this, don't stop, man. Think about it, learn about it, see what's really going on with it, because we're always better in a deregulated state versus a regulated state, and then we can create rules around that state to kind of hedge in the problem areas, right? You don't want to go the other way, because then the little guys, the opportunity for the people like us goes away, and then you're gonna lose all of this. I mean, not that the big business gives a fuck, they don't, but the point is we do, and we're the ones who vote.
Yeah.
So vote intelligently, or get involved with you know, with people who do know, and learn what you need to learn, and support, you know,
And I'll
support
add,
local is our
if
thing.
you don't have the time to educate yourself or learn more about it, stay the fuck out of it. Shut your mouth.
Yeah,
Stay out of
there
it.
you
If you don't
go.
know what you're
Yeah,
talking about,
don't,
shut the fuck up. Like, if you don't
yeah,
know what
just don't get
scheduling
involved,
means,
man.
don't talk about scheduling. If you've never looked into federal
Right.
legalization, don't give people your fucking opinion on it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you please learn about it and then talk to all your friends about it. But
Yeah.
if you don't know what you're talking about, shut the fuck up. Like, we've got enough
Yeah,
people not know
I
what we're
hear
talking
that. I
about.
mean, I hear that.
Like,
We have these conversations. I have conversations like this with people all the time. Like, oh yeah, well, when the federal government, you know, deschedules it or whatever, I'm like, dude, stop.
you're doing harm. Like, it's more than,
Just fucking
it's not
stop.
neutral. It's
Let's
like,
not
it's
talk about
negative.
that.
Yeah.
I don't even have an opinion about it right now, because honestly, you know, I don't know what that's gonna what's gonna happen when that happens, and how it's gonna be, and neither do you. And you don't know, like, your ideas are irrelevant because you're listening to the fucking somebody else's opinion. You're
Yeah,
not
they're reading
really
the Wall
studying.
Street Journal and getting their weed information from there or something. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
So I really do encourage, like, go out there, educate yourself. But if you're not educated about it, like,
Just shut
stay
up.
out of it. Yeah,
Yeah, just stay out of it.
yeah.
Yeah, don't get involved in it.
Yeah.
It's very true. Yeah. Wow, man. Look, we cruised through a lot of stuff today, man. I really appreciate it. Um, I think you're doing a great thing, man, and I think that that's a great opportunity. And, you know, and regardless of what happens ultimately out of Humboldt, I mean, obviously it's going through changes, but it's not going to disappear. Like, it's not going to get erased. I don't honestly believe that there will no weed will be grown in Humboldt. That's ridiculous as well. But during the transition, man, good luck to you. Good luck to your company. Hopefully, and I mean this in all sincerity, hopefully you'll get some competition, because competition breeds excitement, good competition especially, you know, and get some more people involved. And for everybody who's listening, if you got an opportunity, you need to go to Humboldt and check out Humboldt, because it's the birthplace of this thing. And just just for that fact alone, say you've been there, and then hook up, get a tour, and get to actually meet people who did the hard work that we're all benefiting from, is what I would say.
Yeah, and also like a lot of those, like especially when we do those trips for like business people, one of the things like I'm really most excited about is those people leave with like phone numbers of people who live in Humboldt that they can call and ask questions to. So we can really want to be a resource for other people. We want to help other people grow weed. We don't want to grow all the weed. We want to help other people grow weed too. And everyone should grow at home too. That's my last little thing. Like if you can grow weed at home, you should. Everyone who grows weed at home should, and then you should give it away for free. Like, that's the best thing to do with weed, is give it away to your friends, in my opinion.
I mean, if you're growing it, yeah, you know what I mean? I don't know. It was so funny. I knew this thing was fucked when San Diego's regulations came in, and then they went out, came in, went out, came in, went out. And the guys that waited all the way through all the changes were the guys that were the delivery dispensaries, because they weren't fucking with those guys. I'm like, that's how it's always fucking been. Call the guy, he delivers the weed. This is not new.
Yeah, been doing this shit forever. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys, fuck.
Yeah, but definitely welcome anyone to come visit. We're just kind of starting our season now, so we just started our farm tours. The best time to visit is September, the end of September probably. That's like harvest time for the big outdoor. There's a lot of fun events going on. My website lists a bunch of events. Also, anybody that just wants to talk, like, has questions about visiting Humboldt, not weed questions, let me know. Or anyone who wants to talk about tourism in general. Like if you have a farm and you're thinking about tourism out there in the world, or if you live in a state and you are anybody, I kind of talk to anybody. So anybody that wants to talk tourism, feel free to give me a call, shoot me an email.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're gonna post all your stuff up for people to reach out, but they can reach out and just bullshit if they want to.
Yeah, if I don't want to talk to you, I'll excuse myself. But yeah, I generally I like to talk to anybody. I like to talk to anyone.
Yeah, me too. I don't mind talking. I like to hear myself talk. That's how. Yeah. Listen, man, that was great. I really appreciate it. Best of luck. It's great to have you on. We'll do this again. I definitely think I'm up for a visit up there for. We were up this last September, actually. We started a kind of a throwback tour in our bus and cruise around and just to go back and see the home, right? And that's what kind of got me on the kick of like, what the fuck's going on in Humboldt? And I was kind of blown away because you lose focus. I'm not there all the time, and then to come back up and just see what the economic impact, it was kind of crazy. Anyway, all that aside, definitely I'll take you up on it if we get the opportunity to come.
Please do come visit. Yeah, we'd love to get you on tour.
Absolutely. Thank you for everything, man. Thanks for the conversation. Anything else? Marco will cut the rest of this out. But anything else that comes up, if you have any concern about anything that was said or whatever, you can we cut it out. I don't think we talked about anything that wasn't worth talking about.
I'm fine with everything. Yeah.
And we'll get all your contact information and push you out on social. And if you have anything else you want to add or whatever, just let us know.
No, I'll do the same. Thanks. That was great. Yeah, no, I'm happy with everything I said. Definitely, both of you guys come visit if you're ever in the area. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the great conversation. This is really nice. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man, it was a pleasure, man. All right, take care.
Later on. Thanks, you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you all for joining this week's podcast. You can check us out at GreenBroz.com and all the socials at GreenBroz.